Modern Romance by Aziz Ansari. Picture this. It's late at night, and you've just wrapped up an incredible evening with someone new. Someone who actually gets your jokes, who makes you feel like the funniest person in the room. You finally score their number, and a few days later, you compose what feels like the Oscar-winning screenplay of text messages. It's witty, it's smooth, it's got that perfect callback to your conversation. You hit send. Then comes the waiting game. A few minutes crawl by. Your phone buzzes. You see those three little dots dancing on your screen. They're typing. Your stomach does a little somersault. Here we go. The anticipation builds. And then the dots vanish into thin air. Radio silence. Crickets. Minutes stretch into an hour bleeds into 2. That confidence you had just moments ago, it's evaporating, replaced by a creeping sense of dread. You open the message again, analyzing every syllable like it's a crime scene. Did I come on too strong? Should I have added more emojis? Fewer emojis? A whole day passes. Still nothing. Then you see it. They're posting on social media. A photo of a random deer they spotted while hiking. A deer. They've got time to document wildlife, but not to respond to you? This spiral of second-guessing, this whirlpool of anxiety and wounded pride, it's something nearly all of us have experienced. And it's this exact modern torture that sent comedian Aziz Ansari down a rabbit hole. He had an epiphany. This particular brand of romantic agony wouldn't have even registered as a problem 20 years ago. So what on earth has happened to how we fall in love? Aziz Ansari, armed with his signature humor and genuine curiosity, decided to investigate. But he knew he couldn't crack this code alone. He partnered up with Eric Klinenberg, a brilliant sociologist, and together they launched an ambitious research expedition. They hopscotched from New York to Tokyo, from Paris to Buenos Aires, conducting hundreds of interviews and focus groups. They dove into our text messages, dissected our dating profiles, and explored the hidden digital universes we all carry in our pockets. The result? This book, Modern Romance. It's not your typical dating manual filled with pickup lines and grooming tips. It's a fascinating detective story about the most dramatic transformation in romantic history. Today, we're going to unpack the eye-opening discoveries they made. We'll time travel back to see how our grandparents navigated love and why their approach seems so wonderfully strange to us now. We'll crack the code of texting etiquette, online dating, and the bizarre new ways we forge and sever connections. By the time we're done, you'll understand the invisible currents shaping your own love life. You'll finally get why modern dating feels like such an obstacle course, and you'll walk away with some real wisdom to help you navigate it all, with more confidence and way less of that deer photo-induced panic. To make sense of where we are, we need to rewind the clock. Imagine stepping into the world your grandparents or great-grandparents inhabited. When Aziz and his team sat down with older folks in retirement communities, they discovered a landscape that feels almost like science fiction to us now. When asked about meeting their spouse of half a century, the answers were almost comically straightforward. She lived one floor up from me. He was right across the street. She was just down the hall. It's pretty wild when you think about it. A massive chunk of them ended up marrying someone who lived within easy walking distance of their childhood home. Back in 1932, a Philadelphia study revealed that 1/3 of married couples had lived within a 5-block bubble of each other. 1 in 8 had actually lived in the same building. Nobody was asking deep questions like, is this person my soulmate? They weren't lying awake, wondering if someone better existed in the neighboring town. As one sociologist neatly summarized it, people will go as far as they have to find a mate, but no farther. The whole endeavor was refreshingly pragmatic. And the motivations for tying the knot? Just as practical. You'd hear things like, "He seemed decent enough," or "She was pleasant." Marriage wasn't the triumphant conclusion to an epic romance. It was more like the opening chapter of adult life. For women particularly, it was often the golden ticket out of their parents' house. When Aziz posed the question to a room full of older women about whether many marry just to escape home, every single hand went up. Sociologists call this the, quote, companionate marriage. It wasn't about discovering someone who completed your soul. It was about finding a dependable teammate to tackle life's challenges alongside. Love was something that might blossom gradually, like a plant growing over seasons. In the 1960s, a whopping 76% of women admitted they'd be willing to marry someone they didn't actually love. For them, holding out for a fairy tale romance was an indulgence they simply couldn't entertain. So what flipped the script? Pretty much everything. In a remarkably short span, our entire cultural approach to partnership got completely scrambled. We've broken free from that small, contained world. Today, we navigate through a brand new life stage that didn't even exist for our grandparents: emerging adulthood. This is that stretch from your late teens through your 20s, sometimes pushing into your early 30s. It's your exploration phase. You bounce between colleges, sample different careers, relocate to new cities, navigate a few relationships. You're not racing to lock down a life partner at 21. You're trying to figure out who you actually are. And while we're on this journey of self-discovery, our dating pool explodes from the folks on our street to, quite literally, everyone on the planet. This seismic shift has fundamentally altered what we're hunting for. We're not settling for a good enough partner anymore. We're on an all-consuming quest for our soulmate. Ask people today why they got married, and you'll hear responses from a completely different universe than the older generation. Now it's all, "She's my better half," or "I literally can't picture life without him." They talk about profound connections, perfectly matched humor, and the sensation that their partner elevates them into their best self. We're not looking for something that slowly warms up anymore. We want the relationship blazing hot from day one. This is the soulmate marriage. It promises a level of joy and fulfillment that previous generations rarely experienced. But wow, does it come with crushing pressure. The bar is stratospherically high. We're now asking one person to provide what an entire community used to supply: belonging, identity, comfort, passion, mystery, and companionship, all wrapped into one package. And when a relationship falls short of these sky-high expectations, we're quick to pull the plug, convinced our true soulmate is still out there somewhere. This quest, this hunt for the perfect match, has become the defining drama of contemporary romance. And the tools we wield in this search have transformed the entire journey. We now split our time between two parallel universes: the physical world and what Aziz dubs the phone world. Think about how much of your waking life gets absorbed by screens. The average American spends nearly 7.5 hours daily staring at one. Our phone world is where we stay connected with everyone, from our parents to someone we just exchanged numbers with last night. It's where we pick restaurants, choose movies, and naturally, where we live out a massive chunk of our romantic existence. These days, if you own a smartphone, you're basically carrying a 24/7 singles mixer in your pocket. With a few quick taps, you're swimming in an ocean of romantic possibilities. But, as Aziz discovered through his own saga with Tanya, this ocean has some serious riptides. And often, the first hurdle is the most nerve-wracking, making that initial move. How do you ask someone out in today's world? Phone call? Text message? A generation back, the phone call was your only option. It was absolutely terrifying. You'd dial their number with your heart hammering, desperately hoping their dad wouldn't answer. It demanded genuine courage. Today, the phone call is practically extinct. For anyone under 30, texting has become the go-to method for asking someone out. Younger people, who've grown up marinating in text culture, are legitimately scared of actual voice calls. Phone calls are awful and they give me anxiety, one 24-year-old woman confessed to the researchers. Another chimed in, ever since texting became a thing, an actual phone call feels like there's been an emergency. But here's where things get messy. Other women said precisely the opposite. For them, a guy who actually calls comes across as confident and mature. He distinguishes himself from the tsunami of generic "hey" texts. Some women even admitted they love getting phone calls, but they have zero interest in actually picking up. They'll let it hit voicemail to vet the guy. It's an absolute minefield of contradictory signals. This migration to texting has created some serious consequences. A text message puts distance between you and the person you're communicating with. You can't see their face or catch the nuance in their voice. This separation can make people bolder, and not always in productive ways. It enables flakiness, rudeness, and what Aziz calls the modern bozo. While doing his research, Aziz examined the phones of hundreds of single women, and what he witnessed was maddening. Their inboxes were drowning in the most lazy, thoughtless, cookie-cutter messages you can imagine. Hey, WSUP, hey. When you're bombarded with dozens of these daily, they all melt into a puddle of tedium. It makes the sender seem utterly unoriginal and makes the recipient feel completely unremarkable. And sometimes it gets way darker than just boring. Hidden behind the safety of a screen, some guys transform into sexually aggressive douche monsters, firing off messages they'd never dare say face-to-face. Stuff like, afternoon sex, or, I like your tits, followed up with, I'm assuming that they are nice. The consequences of being offensive via text are basically non-existent. You don't have to witness the disgust on her face. But you don't need to be a monster to screw things up. The tiniest details in a text can torpedo your chances. There's this guy named Will who got a woman's number through mutual friends. He had a solid shot. His opening text introduced himself and included the phrase, sort of, texty, introduce myself. Haha. The moment Aziz read the word texty to an audience of thousands, the entire theater erupted in collective groaning. Texty, for whatever mysterious reason, was universally repulsive. Will might have been a kind, attractive guy in person, but his phone persona came across as an awkward, cringe-worthy weirdo. She ghosted him immediately. This reveals a critical truth about modern romance. You now exist as two distinct people, your flesh and blood self and your phone self. And the ridiculous things your phone self does can make your real-world self look like a complete joke. The person on the receiving end sees no distinction. A careless message riddled with typos can obliterate all the chemistry you built in person. So what actually works in a text? Aziz identified 3 essential ingredients that successful opening texts share. First, a clear invitation to something specific at a specific time. Don't float out there with, "Wanna hang out sometime?" That's weak and vague. Instead, try, "Hey, it was great meeting you. I'd love to take you to that restaurant we talked about. Are you free next Thursday?" It demonstrates confidence and genuine thought. Second, a callback to your previous interaction. This proves you were actually paying attention. One woman remembered a guy years later because his first text said, "I hope your move went well," referencing something she'd mentioned. It shows you see them as an actual person, not just another option in your queue. Third, a touch of humor. This one's risky, because a joke that lands wrong can sink your ship. But if you're on the same comedic wavelength, a funny, clever message can create real electricity. Even when you nail the perfect text, you're just entering the next phase of the game. Then comes the complicated mathematics of response timing. Nearly everyone in the focus groups had a calculated strategy. Some would double the response time. If he takes 10 minutes to reply, I'll take 20. This creates a dynamic of having the upper hand, of appearing less available. This might sound ridiculous, but there's legitimate psychology at work here. Researchers have discovered that reward uncertainty can dramatically amplify our interest. When we don't know exactly when we'll get a reward, like a text back, our brain pumps out more dopamine, the same chemical tied to pleasure and addiction. If you text back instantly every single time, you become predictable. The reward loses its punch. MIT anthropologist Natasha Schull draws a parallel between texting someone you're attracted to and playing a slot machine. There's uncertainty, anticipation, and anxiety all swirled together. You pull the lever, send the text, and you're expecting an immediate payoff. When it doesn't materialize, your entire nervous system goes haywire. This is that modern madness Aziz experienced with Tanya. It's a distress that simply didn't exist when we had to wait days for a callback on a landline. And sometimes, the holdup isn't a strategic mind game at all. It's because they're busy, frantically Googling you. In one survey, over 80% of millennials confessed to doing online detective work on a potential partner before a first date. In a world where we're meeting complete strangers, it's a way to verify they're not, say, a firefighter who was caught on camera beating up an elderly woman for feeding stray cats. Yes, that's an actual example from the book. But what if you're the one who's not feeling it? How do you let someone down gently? Most people pick one of two escape routes. They pretend to be swamped with obligations, or they simply vanish into the ether. We despise confrontation. It's so much easier to just fade away and hope they decode the message. Yet when asked how they'd prefer to be rejected, overwhelmingly people say they want straightforward honesty. This is the great contradiction of modern rejection. We all want the respect of a direct answer, but we're rarely brave enough to give it ourselves. This entire labyrinth of texting strategies and online reconnaissance is just the opening act to the biggest tool in the modern hunt for a soulmate: online dating. I know what might be running through your mind. Online dating can carry a stigma, but the numbers are absolutely staggering. Between 2005 and 2012, more than 1/3 of all couples who got married in the United States connected through an online dating site. That's the single biggest way people meet their spouses now. It dwarfs meeting through work, friends, and school combined. The explosion has been lightning fast. Before the mid-90s, your options were clunky computer dating services or classified ads buried in the back of newspapers. Eric Klunenberg's own father, Ed, met his wife Anne through a personal ad back in the 1980s. His ad proclaimed, "Seeking adventure?" and listed his hobbies. Anne was so mortified about their origin story that for years she concocted a fake decoy story about how they met to tell friends and family. Today, that shame is evaporating. Online dating hands you what seems like an infinite catalog of single people, with sophisticated tools to filter them however you want. Looking for a 28-year-old living in Brooklyn who's obsessed with Naughty by Nature's music and happens to be a member of the Baha'i faith? You're literally just a few clicks away. But this incredible new capability has spawned a fresh set of headaches. The first is what happens when you're drowning in unlimited choices. When Aziz and his team projected a woman's OkCupid account onto a giant screen at a live show, the men in the crowd looked on in sheer terror. She was receiving 50 brand new messages every single day. Her inbox was suffocating under hundreds of unread messages. In the online dating arena, women get bombarded with way more attention than men. But that doesn't mean guys are sitting on the sidelines. Take Derek, a guy from one of the focus groups who Aziz described as a pretty boring white guy. In the physical world, he wouldn't necessarily turn heads. But online, he had what Aziz called a stud mentality. He'd click through profiles of gorgeous, fascinating women and dismiss them for the most trivial reasons. "She looks all right," he'd say about one, before immediately moving on. "Oh, she likes the Red Sox." 20 years ago, if that same woman had smiled at him across a bar, he would have been speechless with excitement. But now, she was just another browser tab to close. This is the soul-crushing exhaustion of online dating. One guy, Arpan, initially crafted thoughtful, personalized messages to women. But after getting barely any responses for his efforts, he became cynical. He started mass-producing generic douchebag messages to dozens of women simultaneously, because it was just more efficient. His dates became assembly line standardized too. Always just drinks. Always at a bar within walking distance of his apartment. The exhilarating search for love had morphed into a miserable second job. He stood in stark contrast to another guy in the same group, Dinesh. Dinesh wasn't on any dating apps. He met people organically, through his church, at volunteer gigs, through his sprawling network of friends. He wasn't exhausted or jaded. He actually seemed content. The contrast between Arpan and Dinesh exposes a profound truth about our new world of endless options. Psychologist Barry Schwartz calls it the paradox of choice. His research demonstrates that when we have more options, we're often less happy with whatever we finally choose. We become what he calls maximizers, fixated on finding the absolute best possible option. Think about how Aziz tried to pick a restaurant in Seattle. He consulted multiple review websites, texted foodie friends for recommendations, and cross-referenced menus obsessively. He was hunting for the perfect dining experience. By the time he finally made a decision, the restaurant had closed for the night, and he wound up eating a depressing peanut butter and banana sandwich alone. The quest for the best left him with the worst. This exact same thing is happening to us in the romance department. With an endless supply of potential partners at our fingertips, we start comparing real flesh and blood people, not to other actual humans, but to some idealized fantasy person who could never possibly exist. We're perpetually wondering if there's an upgrade just one more swipe away. How can you ever be certain you found the best person? As Schwartz puts it, the answer is every damn person there is. How else do you know it's the best? If you're looking for the best, this is a recipe for complete misery. So is the solution to have fewer options? To find out, Aziz traveled to small towns like Monroe, New York, and Wichita, Kansas. He figured he might discover a simpler, happier dating landscape. Instead, he found people who felt completely trapped. In a small town, everybody knows everybody else's business. You know who she's dated, who he's hooked up with. It's a, quote, cesspool, as one woman bluntly described it. There's zero sense of discovery. If you fire up an app like Tinder, you might swipe through 2 people and then, that's it. Game over. The limited options weren't making anyone happier. They were just making people feel suffocated. This brings us to a fundamental challenge of contemporary romance. It's not really about having more options or fewer options. It's about how we evaluate the options right in front of us. We keep going on the same mind-numbingly boring dates on repeat. Coffee, drinks, dinner. We sit across from someone and basically exchange LinkedIn profiles. Where did you grow up? What's your job? How many siblings do you have? Can anyone really shine in that sterile environment? Can you honestly feel a deep connection while making awkward small talk? Aziz shares what he brilliantly calls the monster truck rally theory. A friend of his had remarkable success bringing dates to a monster truck rally. It was fun, exciting, and totally unexpected. Instead of conducting a boring interview, they were experiencing something memorable together. They got an authentic sense of each other's personality and natural chemistry. There's even hard science backing this up. A famous study found that men who met an attractive woman on a wobbly, anxiety-inducing suspension bridge were far more likely to call her afterward than men who met her on a sturdy, stable bridge. They misattributed their fear-induced arousal as romantic attraction. Exciting experiences create powerful bonds. And just as we should inject more creativity into our dates, maybe we should also be more patient with the actual people we're dating. Aziz describes a personal experiment he conducted. Instead of going on 1 date each with 4 different women, he decided to go on 4 dates with 1 woman. He discovered that a first date that was merely a 6 out of 10 often blossomed into an 8 by the second or third encounter. As they grew more comfortable, they developed inside jokes and genuine rapport. He had an epiphany. He'd probably been eliminating people who could have been amazing partners, simply because they didn't create instant fireworks on the very first night. There's something uniquely valuable hidden in everyone, but those deeper qualities only reveal themselves during sustained interaction. Your mate value, your average first impression based on looks and charisma, matters way less than your unique value, those special qualities that a specific person finds absolutely captivating about you. But you can't uncover that unique value in a single formulaic date or by mindlessly swiping through photos. You have to invest real time. This is powerfully illustrated by one of the most incredible stories in the entire book. At one of his comedy shows, Aziz brought a woman on stage who'd been exchanging messages with a guy. The messages made it look like she wasn't interested at all. She was throwing out all kinds of excuses, including an incredibly elaborate one about her brother-in-law's dying grandmother. The audience overwhelmingly agreed she would never, ever go out with this guy. A year later, that same woman reached out to Aziz. She told him that after witnessing the audience's reaction, she decided to give the guy an actual shot. They started seeing each other. And then, they got engaged. That potentially incredible person can so easily die as just another forgotten option in your phone, buried under an avalanche of new faces. Of course, the challenges don't magically evaporate once you find someone and commit. In fact, a whole fresh set of modern complications emerges. The same technology that helps us connect also opens up new pathways for infidelity, jealousy, and heartbreak. Take sexting, for example. Sharing explicit images isn't exactly new. People have been sending erotic letters for centuries. But the smartphone has made it ridiculously easy and shockingly common. Half of all young adults have received a sext. For many people, It's a playful and healthy way to build intimacy, sustain a long-distance relationship, or just feel powerful and desired. But it comes with the absolutely terrifying risk of exposure. The phone world also makes cheating dramatically easier. The privacy of our phones provides a perfect hideout to nurture a secret relationship. You can be lying in bed right next to your partner while secretly texting someone else. And because we all know this is possible, it breeds a new strain of paranoia: snooping. There's a story about a guy who got suspicious when his girlfriend downloaded Snapchat, an app he associated with sending nude photos. He was furious, but he couldn't confront her because she was strapped into a back brace in an ambulance after a skiing accident. Turns out the guy she was snapping with was gay, but the story perfectly illustrates how easily suspicion can spiral into madness in our new digital reality. Even breaking up has been completely transformed. Over half of young adults have ended a relationship through digital channels, texting, social media, or email, because it's less awkward. There's this brutal story of a guy who ended a 2-year relationship via Facebook chat with the message, "I keep going back and forth on whether or not I want to be with you, skeptical smiley face." A 2-year relationship terminated with a sideways sad face emoticon. And when you're in a committed relationship, how do you handle the simple biological reality that passionate love fades? Brain scans reveal that the initial drug-like rush of passionate love, that dopamine flood, typically lasts only 12 to 18 months. After that, in healthy relationships, it transforms into a calmer, deeper connection called companionate love. It's the love you feel for a lifelong partner, more like a profound friendship than a cocaine high. This transition is a critical danger point. Countless couples break up when that initial passion fades, assuming something's fundamentally wrong with the relationship, without ever giving companionate love a chance to develop. They panic and dive back into the single world, chasing that initial high all over again. So, faced with a world of infinite options and the biological certainty that passion fades, how do we ever discover lasting happiness? This is where the book's journey comes beautifully full circle. Aziz started this project feeling confused and frustrated by the chaos of modern dating. But after all the research, all the interviews, all the data, he arrived at a place of genuine hope. He realized that his own exhaustion with single life, the endless bar hopping, the repetitive first dates, was actually a signal that he was ready for something deeper. He started being more intentional about his search, frequenting places he genuinely enjoyed, and giving the people he met a real, honest chance. He eventually found an amazing partner and settled down, but even then, the decision was genuinely tough. He was scared of slamming the door on all those other possibilities. This is the central tension haunting so many of us: the fear of committing versus the fear of settling for less than a soulmate. The truth is, we're living through an absolutely unique moment in human history. We have more freedom, more choice, and higher expectations than any generation that came before us. This is simultaneously a blessing and a curse. It makes the search more complicated and stressful, but it also means we're far more likely to end up with someone we're truly, deeply excited about. As we wrap up our journey through modern romance, what stays with us? It's a book that launches with a comedian's dating anxieties and evolves into one of the most perceptive and clear-eyed examinations of love in our era. It's genuinely funny, but underneath the humor pulses a profound empathy for how challenging this journey has become for all of us. The most powerful takeaway, at least for me, is this idea of intentionality. In a world that feels so chaotic and overwhelming, where we're constantly bombarded with options and notifications, The book gently reminds us that we still have control. We can actively choose how we engage with technology and with each other. We're so often just passive passengers in our own love lives. We swipe, we text, we wait, we react. But what if we decided to become the architects of our romantic experiences? What if we brought the same creativity and thoughtfulness to our dates that we bring to our careers or our passions? That's where the practical wisdom of this book really sparkles. So if you're looking to apply these insights to your own life, here are a few simple actions you can take, starting right now. First, embrace the monster truck rally theory. For your very next date, challenge yourself to plan something that isn't just the standard coffee or drinks routine. It doesn't have to be a monster truck rally. Maybe it's visiting an alpaca farm, taking a beekeeping class, or creating a Westminster dog show drinking game. The whole point is to do something active and interesting that lets you experience someone's actual personality, not just collect their biographical details. Create a shared adventure, not an interrogation. Second, try out the 5-date rule. The next time you meet someone you're genuinely interested in, even if the first date is just a 6, commit to giving them a fair shot. Go on a few more dates. Invest the time to see if their deeper, unique qualities emerge. Fight the urge to immediately jump back onto your phone and hunt for the next, theoretically superior, option. Remember that people, much like a Flo Rida song, often improve with repeated exposure. And third, conduct a phone self-audit. Go back and review your last few text conversations with someone you were trying to date. Read them out loud to yourself. Is that the person you actually want to be? Are you being thoughtful, clear, and kind? Or are you being lazy, generic, and wishy-washy? Remember, there's a real, living, breathing person on the other side of that little bubble. Someone with their own hopes and anxieties, probably feeling just as confused as you are. Treat them accordingly. In the end, modern romance isn't a book peddling easy answers, because there aren't any. It doesn't hand you a magic formula for finding your soulmate. Instead, it offers something far more valuable. A detailed map of the new world we're all navigating, and the wisdom to move through it with a bit more grace and a lot less fear. It reminds us that despite all the new technologies and evolving rules, the ultimate goal remains timeless. It's about finding a way to genuinely connect, to be vulnerable, and to have a little faith in the person sitting across from you. That was our deep dive into modern romance by Aziz Ansari. We've explored the biggest ideas and the most powerful stories today. But here's the truth. A summary can only take you so far. The real magic happens when you experience the book yourself. It's in those quiet moments when one of Aziz's hilarious footnotes or a particular story resonates with you in an unexpected way. This summary is designed to help you decide if this journey is one you want to take for yourself. If anything we've talked about today has sparked your curiosity or made you feel genuinely understood, I'd encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about absorbing information. It's an experience that can genuinely transform how you see yourself, your phone, and the complicated, beautiful search for love. If you found this summary valuable and it gave you a fresh perspective, I'd be incredibly grateful if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next journey into another thought-provoking book. Let's keep learning and growing together.